What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for my post-spring top 25 rankings. We did a way too early top 25, and then a pre-spring top 25, and I made a lot of changes since then because I feel like really on those first two, I had not had time to really go through and evaluate these rosters and who's coming back for each team and all that. I have now been able to do that, and I know the rosters are still changing. You've got transfer portal guys out there that could still make a difference for some of these teams. But this is not a preseason top 25. It's a post-spring top 25. I'm pretty sure the preseason top 25 is going to change once again. But this is my best bet, and I think you're going to be surprised with some of these teams because there are some teams that I definitely feel a lot better about than I did maybe a couple of months ago. Maybe some teams that I've dropped a lot from where I had them before. And again, really, I dug deep into these rosters. I feel pretty good about this top 25. I didn't watch really any spring games this year because I feel like in previous years I would watch the spring games and I'd take too much away from that. The spring games, I mean, that's just one practice, and you cannot judge a team off of how they do in a scrimmage against themselves. I mean, you can't take too much away from that. I always liked what you could learn in those. You'd hear things from the coaches and all that about the teams. But another reason why I didn't watch a lot is because certain teams that you watch and you learn about, and then other teams that you don't have an opportunity to watch, it can kind of make you feel better about those teams that you watched versus the teams that you didn't watch. And I'm trying to take any of that kind of stuff away and just evaluate these teams based off of my information and what the rosters look like coming in to this next season. I'll try to keep this from being too long. I know sometimes I ramble in these videos, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. And let's get right to it, starting with 21 through 25. I didn't have any group of 5 teams in my top 25 before the spring, but now we have added Cincinnati and Houston into the top 25. Houston with some big-time weapons coming back on offense. This team should be pretty good once again this year. Wake Forest also with some weapons back on offense. I think they'll be fine on that side of the ball. It's the defense. That's where I'm a little bit concerned with Wake Forest. They have some big losses there on that side of the ball. And it's a defense that really wasn't that great last year. So I think you're going to get more of the same in Wake Forest, scoring a lot of points, giving up a lot of points. They'll have to win some shootouts, but they've got the offense that'll give them a chance in those games. Pittsburgh at number 23, losing Jordan Addison. That's a big-time loss for them when he decided to enter the transfer portal. They're not super deep behind him at wide receiver, but I do like what they've got on the offensive line and the running back position coming back. This is a team that's going to be able to run the football. Like what they have coming back on defense, they should be good on that side of the ball as well. So it may be one of those more traditional Pitt teams that likes to run the ball, play good defense, when maybe not airing it out as much as they did last year. And Keaton Slovis coming in from USC, I think is going to be really good for them at quarterback. Underrated guy. I think he steps in and plays really well for this team. Baylor at number 22. You know, some losses on offense that concern me a little bit with this team. How many weapons are they going to have around Blake Shapen, who wound up winning that starting job at quarterback? Offensive line, though, looks pretty strong, and defense looks strong. Yeah, they lose some really good players from last year's team. They've got a lot of guys coming back as well, so I think Baylor's defense should be really good. It's going to be about the offense. Can they get a little bit more production there? That's what's going to get them potentially back to a Big 12 championship. And then Cincinnati at number 21. It's, quarterback position going to be a big question mark with Desmond Ridder gone. Will it be Evan Prater? Maybe the transfer coming in there. I think Ben Bryant's his name. I like what they've got on the offensive line. Everyone coming back there. They got a really good tight end. A few guys that can step up at running back. The passing game, though, does concern me a little bit. And they do lose some big-time players on defense. We all know who they lost. We know the guys that went to the NFL. Some big-time losses on that side of the ball. But this was a playoff team last year. And so I'm dropping them a lot by dropping them to number 21. It's not like I've dropped them out of the top 25. It's not like that I haven't dropped them at all, I should say. I have dropped them a lot from where they finished last year because of those losses on defense. But there's still enough coming back. A well-coached team. I think Cincinnati can be a top 25 team this upcoming season. Moving on to 16 through 20. NC State at number 20. A lot of production coming back for them on both sides of the ball. I think NC State has a chance to maybe be a dark horse there in the ACC. USC they're going to have the offense. This team is going to be really good on offense, I feel like. Although you can kind of go back to last year, Oklahoma's offense wasn't as good as we expected it to be. But there are just so many weapons for this USC team. It's going to come down to the offensive line. Can they step up and play a little bit better? Because if you don't have a good offensive line, it makes it a lot tougher. But so many players at the skill positions, Caleb Williams coming over from Oklahoma, some other guys coming with him as well. I mean, this offense should be really good. I am concerned about the defense, though. This just doesn't, on paper, this does not look like a great defense to me. Offense, A+. Defense, maybe a C. So, I mean, how does that play out? They might have to win a lot of shootouts. Could be similar to Wake Forest. I think this team has more overall talent than Wake Forest, and that's why I do have them ranked a little bit higher. Texas is a very similar story. This is an offense that's going to be really, really good in my opinion. You've got options at quarterback. Bijan Robinson, maybe the top running back in the country. Weapons all over the place at wide receiver. Offensive line, how do they play? Defense, how does it play? So Texas and USC, very similar in my opinion. And going to be interesting to see if one of those teams can maybe step up and make a run at something big this year, or are they disappointments again? We'll find out. Oregon at number 17, probably more overall talent than USC when you look at their roster. Definitely better on the defensive side. And I really believe in Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is going to come in there. I know there have been some questions about whether or not he was going to be the starter even with Ty Thompson, but I think it's going to be Bo Nix. I think he's going to have a special year, maybe even a Heisman candidate. And again, I know they lost a lot of guys from last year's team, but they've recruited well. They got young guys waiting. They brought in some transfers. They're going to help out. I think Oregon has a chance to do something special potentially this year. Kentucky at number 16, Will Levis at quarterback. He'll be back. Weapons around him, an offense that has really improved the last couple of years. Lose some big-time players on the offensive line, but I think they'll be okay there. They've added some transfers, and they've recruited well. Defensively, I just don't really worry too much about this Kentucky team. They always have a good defense with Mark Stoops there, so I'm not too concerned there. Kentucky, maybe a contender in the SEC East if Georgia drops off. We'll see. Moving on to 11 through 15. BYU at number 15. They have a lot of production coming back, really on both sides of the ball. I guess one of the things about BYU is how they finished the year in their bowl game, and maybe we shouldn't read too much into that. Which BYU team was the real BYU team last year? Because at times they looked really, really good. And with all those players coming back, I think this is a top 15 team, and I've got them there at number 15. Oklahoma at number 14. So many losses, so many guys that enter the transfer portal, but they've started to replace some of those players, and I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be really good for them at quarterback. I think Oklahoma's going to be pretty good. I've got them ranked as the highest Big 12 team, at least in my top 25 here. And I think Brent Venables is going to bring something to that Oklahoma defense that they've been missing. And I think Oklahoma is going to be a good team this year. Some people questioning, where will the Sooners land? I've got them at number 14. I've got Arkansas at number 13. KJ Jefferson returning at quarterback. They've added some players from the transfer portal. They did lose some guys as well, though, so Arkansas is kind of tough for me. Sam Pittman just did an unbelievable job last year with this Arkansas team, and they have enough coming back to where they, I think, will be a top 15 team. LSU is a team that has really been on the rise for me. I originally, when you just looked at the players that they lost, it was hard to really get on board with this LSU team. But they've done just such a great job adding players from the transfer portal. And because of that, I've been kind of moving them up, all the way to number 12. You've got 3 quarterbacks in there that can all potentially go out and win you football games. I still think Jaden Daniels is going to win that job. Usually when you bring in a high-profile transfer like that, you bring them in to start. You're not going to bring in a transfer and then have them sit on the bench. But they've got other options there as well. And it's not like you're trying, all right, who can be our guy? Who can be the starting quarterback for LSU? It's just you got 3 guys, I think, that have a chance that can be really good. And it's just picking the best one out of those 3. Also, his mobility, I think, is going to be big. And I think that is why he will win the job. But LSU, you just look up and down the roster. Transfers all over the place. Really talented players. And we're going to find out how good of a coach Brian Kelly is. But he has been known as one of the top coaches in the country. And I think he will prove that and have this LSU team up in the top 15. Ole Miss at number 11, another team that did just an excellent job in the transfer portal. I don't have all the players in front of me, but if you look at this team and you look at where they lost players, and I was kind of looking at them like, all right, I'm concerned about this position. I'm concerned about that position. They lose some key guys here. Then you look at the transfers they brought in, and they really just filled those holes. They added the perfect players, in my opinion, starting with Jackson Dart, of course, at quarterback, who I think is going to have a really big year for the Rebels. But just an excellent job, maybe not in terms of overall numbers, but getting the players that they needed. And I think you're going to see that on the field. And I think Ole Miss is going to be really good this year. I really do. I don't think last year was a fluke. I think Lane Kiffin has proven that his offenses are going to be really good. And I think this defense will be better than some might expect. So I've got Ole Miss at number 11. Moving into the top 10. And really the teams were kind of jumbled up for me from 4 to 9 or 10. It was very close, very hard to try to get any separation between these teams. I've got Texas A&M at number 10. A lot of people are a lot higher on this team. I mean, this is going to be a good team, but I don't think they're really anywhere near a playoff team. I look at the top 3 teams, and you all know who they are: Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. And I don't see anyone really being close to those 3 teams, and I don't think Texas A&M is really in that discussion yet. It's a team that lost a lot of production from last year, and yes, they've got some great recruiting classes back-to-back now, especially this last one, but it's going to take some time for some of those young players to develop and really be impact players, especially in the SEC. So I think the future is very bright for Texas A&M. I don't know if that all comes together for them this year. Maybe it does, but I don't think that they're quite ready to be a playoff team. I've got them number 10, at least to start the season. This could be a top 5 team at the end of the year when some of these guys grow up. Max Johnson, how good really is he? Because I've seen him look great, and I've seen him look average or even worse than that. That's going to be a big question mark. If he comes in and plays really well, that changes this a little bit. I think Texas A&M then becomes a very dangerous team, but I just don't know if I don't know if we're going to get that. We'll see. Miami at number 9. All right, this is a team that a lot of people are probably like, whoa, Miami at number 9? I'm really high on this team. And I don't think that it's just one. There are certain teams that it's easy to get excited about every year. Miami, Texas, USC, when you look at the talent and everything. I don't think I'm going to miss. I really feel like Miami is going to be good this year. Now, I'm not saying they definitely will finish in the top 10, but I don't think it's going to be a bad year. I'm expecting Miami to be really good this year. I like the pieces they've added in the transfer portal. Tyler Van Dyke, very underrated at quarterback. He's probably a top 10 quarterback in the country, and he's got some guys around him, an offensive line that should improve with this new coaching staff. And that's another thing, is the coaching staff. This is an elite coaching staff. Miami has done an excellent job. Mario Cristobal, if he can just get out of the way and kind of let these guys coach, Miami, I think, can be very dangerous. I think they're a playoff dark horse contender. I really do. I feel confident about that. We'll see. I might miss the mark here, but I really think Miami is going to be good this year. Michigan State at number 8, another team that I'm getting higher and higher on. When you look at what they've done in the transfer portal, once again, hey, it worked for them last year. I think it's going to work again this year. Jarrett Broussard, a guy you probably haven't heard about or heard a lot from, Colorado. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to step in and be that Kenneth Walker type guy. We know they're going to be good on defense with Mel Tucker coaching them. Peyton Thorne back at quarterback. Got some receivers back. I think Michigan State's going to be a very dangerous team. I've got them at number 8. I've got Clemson at number 7. Originally, I kind of thought Clemson should be number 4 when I looked at this team, But if you look at who they lost compared to Notre Dame and some of these other teams, they lost similar players. They did not really add anyone in the transfer portal, and this was not a top 10 team last year. So I have a hard time putting Clemson. Not saying that they won't finish in the top 4 and they won't make the college football playoff, but right now, I have a hard time putting them higher than about number 7 here. It's going to be about the quarterback position, though. If DJ Uiagalelei can step up and play like he did as a freshman when he played some games in there, then Clemson's going to be really dangerous. But if he struggles again and the freshman coming in there doesn't play at a high level, he's not ready to step up, Clemson could easily have another disappointing year, but they had a lot of injuries last year, and I think the pieces are there. The potential is there for Clemson to be a playoff team this year. I just have a hard time ranking them higher than number 7 right now. Notre Dame at number 6. I mean, they lost a similar amount of talent as Clemson. We'll see what happens for them at quarterback. That's going to be a really interesting battle there. But just overall talent, it's still there for Notre Dame. They had a lot of depth last season, and I'm expecting them to be really good. I think they are, once again, a top 10 team, and Marcus Freeman taking over. That, of course, will be something to watch as well. I've got Utah at number 5. They don't lose too much. Yeah, they lose some big key impact players, but overall, in terms of numbers, a lot of guys coming back for Utah. Cam Rising really stepped up for them at quarterback last season. They're going to have a good run game. Offensive line should be strong. Defense should be pretty good. This is a team that made it to the Rose Bowl last year and almost beat Ohio State. So I look at where they finished last year and the fact that they lost probably less than Notre Dame, less than Clemson, less than Michigan State. That's why I've got them at number 5. Not saying they're going to finish there, but looking at the roster right now, I think this is a top 5 team. And Michigan at number 4 for me also lost similar players, but look at where they finished last year. They were a playoff team, so that's why they get the nod over Utah and Notre Dame and Clemson. Offensively, a chance to be really, really good. The defense, they lose some big-time players. I mean, there's no getting around it. I mean, they lost some impact players. When you look at what they lost on that side of the ball, you have to wonder, can they get back to that level of potentially the college football playoff? I don't know. It'll be all about those younger guys stepping up, but the offense is there. The offense, I think, could be even better than it was last season. Defense, can they be really good there? If they can, Michigan's a playoff contender. If they struggle on defense, if they take a big step back there, Michigan's probably going to lose a couple of games this year. Georgia at number 3. So the top 3 we all know. These are the top 3 for, I think, everyone. Georgia loses the most by far from these 3 teams, so that's why I've got them at number 3. But they've still got a lot of talent, and they still are in that discussion, I think. Ohio State offense, it's going to be very, very dangerous. I mean, they're going to be really good. It's going to be about the defense. Can the defense improve? How much can they improve? If they can improve a lot on defense, they can win a national championship. If they just improve a little bit, I don't know if it's enough to take down Alabama and Georgia. We'll see. I guess it'll be all about that offense and just how good it is. But Alabama's the number 1 team for me, and it's not all that close. They've got it on both sides of the ball. Offense has a lot coming back. Defense has a lot coming back. This is when you look at what Alabama brings back every year, this is going to be one of the more experienced Alabama teams, and it's an Alabama team that just won an SEC championship, lost in the national championship, and it's an Alabama team that has added some players from the transfer portal to make them even better. So that's why, to me, this is your number 1 team, and I don't think it's really up for debate at this point. Doesn't mean they're going to win the national championship and everything's going to go their way, but looking at them to start the season, this is the best team. So I'm going to name off some teams now that I considered, and I'm going to just kind of go back through here and kind of give you the tiers. So you've got your top 3 teams. For me, that's pretty clear. And then you've got Michigan, Utah there, Notre Dame, Clemson, Michigan State, Miami, and maybe throw Texas A&M in there. That's kind of the next tier. And then your next tier after that's Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas. And then it starts getting a little bit murky after that. Starting with Oklahoma, BYU. I guess they probably would belong in that tier. And then also Kentucky. You got your teams with potential here with Oregon, Texas, USC. After USC, though, and maybe NC State, the teams after that, the 5 or 6 teams here in the top 25, and then the teams that I considered that didn't make it in, they're all really even. I don't see a lot of separation between these teams. I'm going to name off those teams here in just a second. But Cincinnati, Baylor, Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, Houston, those 5 teams and the teams that I'm going to say that I considered, not a lot of separation between these teams. I think at the end of the day, if it was really close for me, I just kind of looked at where they finished last year, and these teams all had good seasons last season, so that's why I did put them in the top 25. But we go back here, and these are the teams that I considered that I think you can make a case for them being top 25 teams. I know there's going to be plenty of debate on this video, but if you have one of these teams in your top 25, I can respect that. And again, it's very close, very close. But these are the teams that I considered. So Oklahoma State, a team that I a couple of months ago thought was easily a top 25 team. When you really look at their roster and what they lost a lot. I mean, they lost a lot. You look at that secondary, that's going to be a big concern. Run game could be a concern for them. Do they have enough weapons around Spencer Sanders? I'm concerned about Oklahoma State, but they were good last year, and they have enough coming back to where I did consider them. TCU's a sleeper team. I'm looking at this TCU team. They could be pretty dangerous this year. Watch out for the Horned Frogs. Out of the SEC, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and South Carolina, and Florida in there as well. 4 teams that were very close to making it in. I think all 4 of those teams could potentially be, or at least a couple of them could wind up in the top 25. UCF is also a team that's interesting to watch. A lot of transfers coming in, some impact players for them. Don't sleep on UCF. I think they could be a dangerous team to be one of those other group of 5 teams. And then we'll start kind of at the bottom here with Florida State. Florida State's a team that I think also has potential to possibly be a top 25 team. And then at the top with Penn State, very close with Penn State, but they do lose some key players. And so I just couldn't quite put them into the top 25. But these other 5 teams are the ones I'm going to talk about next and finish things off here. Purdue, Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin. I've been saying this for a while now. These 5 teams are so even. Like, I cannot find really any separation between these 5 teams. They're all in the Big Ten West. I think they all have a chance to win that division. And, I look at one team and say, well, they might be a little bit better in this area, and then this team might be a little bit better in this area, and I just cannot find separation between these 5 teams. They're so even, and I could not put 1 or 2 of them. I think they're all top 25 caliber teams, but I couldn't put 1 or 2 of them in my top 25, which is what I did with Nebraska in the pre-spring rankings. But that really wasn't right, because I can't find where Nebraska is better than these teams. I think they're all just so even. And so I wasn't going to put 1 or 2 of them in the top 25, then leave the other ones out. It's almost like what I would have liked to have done and just put all 5 of them in at number 25 and just say they all tied at 25 or something like that. So very even teams here in the Big Ten West. I think it may come down to the schedules, like I mentioned in another video, or maybe a video that I haven't posted yet. But to me, they're all top 25 caliber teams. Which ones will actually be in the top 25? That's the mystery. And I think that's division's just going to be really fun this year. So that's my post-spring top 25. Would love to get your thoughts, who you would move up and down. How would you rank them? Or you can just give me your top 25 in the comments if you'd like to do that. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.